Good to see everybody. And so we're going to start our class. Of course, how many people on right now, but give everybody a few minutes. And I'll pull out the songbook. Alrighty. Alright, let's see. Simple. Alright. Jeep juggle. Where's it's on the right page here. Jeep juggle 25. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Toila Kila Chichago Gorapjana Mole Kotanikrat Yaumaya Visachirakole Nijago Chichago Gorapjana Mole Kotanidra Maya Visachirakole Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Haribo, 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 Jai Om, Vishnupad, Paramaham Sarapara, Kacharya, Della. Satashi Shima, His Divine Grace Abhaya, Chalana, the Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya, Srila Hridas Thakur Ki Jai, Param Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shidway to Gadadha Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gopana. Shai Makunda, Radhakunda, Giri, Govardhan, Kijai, Vrindavanam, Kijai, Maturanam, Kijai, Jagannath Swami, Kijai, Yamudmai, Kijai. Shrimati Vasudevi Kijai, Samveda Bhakta, Vrinda Kijai, Gaur, Premananda, Hari Haribo. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, the Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharne Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dejatarni. Let's read the translation. Lord Gaurachandra is calling. Wake up, sleeping soul. Wake up, sleeping soul. How long will you sleep in the lap of the witch called Maya? You have forgotten the way of devotional service and are just lost in the cycle of birth and death. I have descended just to save you. I am your only true friend other than me. What friend do you have? I have brought the medicine that will wipe out the disease of illusion from which you suffer. Take this great chant for deliverance, Mahamantra, the names of Hari. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, falling at the Lord's lotus feet, take shelter of the Hari Nam mantra, the Lord's holy names, Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai. So now we are going to continue with our study of the Chaitanya Bhagavat, reading of the Chaitanya Bhagavat and commentary a little bit. Chaitanya Bhagavat. So we're still in the 12th chapter of the Adi Kanda of the Chaitanya Bhagavat. We're reading about Lord Chaitanya wandering around Navadvip and having different interactions with different devotees. And as I mentioned yesterday, we're just going to be reading the English now, not the Bengali, since it takes away from the whole storyline. So therefore, we're just going to read the English and it'll go a little quicker because of that. So, Omagana Timirandasha Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Meditam Yanatas Mai Shigarveda Maha. I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So now we're going to share the screen. And here we go. Share. Here we go. Perfect. And, all right. I want to put that chat thing up in case people have any comments while Right, here we go. Text 248. So Nimai offered obeisances to Shivas, who blessed Nimai by saying, "Live forever." Shivas smiled and inquired, "Oh, best of the arrogant, where are you going? Why do you uselessly waste your time by not worshiping Krishna? Why do you spend day and night simply teaching mundane knowledge? Why do people study? Education is only for understanding devotional service of Lord Krishna. Therefore, don't uselessly waste your time any longer. You've studied enough. Now you should worship Krishna." Nimai smiled and said, "Listen, Pandit, that will certainly be done by your mercy." So, of course, as we know, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was just acting like a logical, someone addicted to logic, and Lord Chaitanya was actually defeating the devotees in logic, rhetorician, and he was defeating the devotees, and people were thinking, oh, if he becomes a devotee, he'll be a great devotee, but right now he's wasting his human form of life. This is Lord Chaitanya's pastime. So, after speaking in this way, Mahaprabhu smiled and departed for the bank of the Ganges, where he met his students. Sri Sachinandana then sat at the bank of the Ganges with his students surrounding him on all sides. I could not describe the beauty of that scene, even if I had millions of mouths. There's no comparison in the three worlds. I cannot compare that scene with the moon surrounded by stars, because the moon has spots and it also waxes and wanes. This Lord, however, is eternally complete and spotless. Therefore, a comparison with the moon is unjustified. I cannot compare Nimai even with Brahaspati, because Brahaspati is partial to the demigods. The Lord, however, is partial to everyone, and therefore a comparison with Brahaspati is also unjustified. Nor can I compare Nimai with Cupid, because if Cupid appears in one's heart, that heart becomes agitated. When this Lord appears in one's heart, however, all one's material bondage is destroyed, and his heart becomes pure and happy. Therefore, all these comparisons are improper. But there is one comparison that I can think of. Just as the son of Nanda enjoyed his pastime sitting amongst the cowherd boys on the bank of the Yamuna, that same Krishna in the form of a Brahmin now enjoyed pastime sitting with those same cowherd boys on the bank of the Ganges. Whoever saw the Lord's face as he sat on the bank of the Ganges attained indescribable happiness. Seeing the Lord's extraordinary effulgence, everyone on the bank of the Ganges began to whisper to one another. Someone said, "An ordinary human being does not have such effulgence." Someone else said, "This Brahmin is a portion of Lord Vishnu." Another said, "I think he will fulfill the prediction that a Brahmin will become the king of Gauda, for he has all the symptoms of a king." In this way, everyone spoke according to their understanding. Meanwhile, the Lord pointed out the faults in other teachers as he engaged in explaining the scriptures on the bank of the Ganges. Nimai established correct statements as incorrect and incorrect statements as correct. Then, after refuting all other explanations, he again established the proper meaning with new explanations. The Lord said, "I consider a person learned if he is able to discuss with me. Who has the power to refute me by establishing a different explanation?" As the Supreme Lord exhibited his pride in this way, he smashed the pride of all others. The Lord had innumerable students who studied in groups under his direction. Every day, 10 or 20 Brahmana boys came to offer obeisances to the Lord. They would say, "Oh, Pandit, we wish to study with you. Please be merciful so that we may learn something." The Lord smiled and said, "Good, good." Thus, the number of his students increased day by day. The Lord of Vaikuntha would sit amidst the circle of his students on the bank of the Ganges. Fortunate people watched from all sides, and by the influence of the Lord, the entire city of Navadvip became free from lamentation. Who can calculate the good fortune of the pious souls who saw those pastimes? Just by seeing a pious soul who has seen those pastimes, one is freed. from material bondage. Just by seeing someone who is seeing Lord Chaitanya. My sinful birth did not take place at that time. Therefore, I was cheated from seeing those pastimes. Because Vrindavan Das Thakur is the son of Narayani, who was a servant in the house of Shivas Thakur. And Narayani, her husband, is not mentioned, so maybe he passed away or whatever. So he came later on, and of course he got his information from the Kadacha, that is a diary of Murari Gupta. So he got first-hand information. He didn't personally observe, but he got first-hand information from those who were there at the time. So he's appeared, I guess, right after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left this world, or when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Jagannath Puri. I'm not sure of the exact time sequence. Still, O Gaurachandra, please be merciful to me so that I may remember those pastimes, birth after birth. Wherever you and Nityananda perform pastimes with your associates, may I be present there as a servant. Accepting Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu as my life and soul, I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet. So, next chapter, chapter 13, defeating the Digvijay. Like I'm not reading the chapter summaries because that spoils the whole story. It's a long summary. Let me just go down a little bit more. Oh, there we go. So Digvijay, let me explain a little bit about Digvijayas. In those days, because Bengal was filled with very educated people, it's not like other states of India where people actually fought. I mean, yesterday I was reading a little bit about, not Indian history, but a little bit about the Vikings. And the Vikings were very like rough, Rakshasa type of people. I mean, kidnapping women, fighting with each other, having duels with each other, duels to the death. That's not the way things were in India at that particular time, especially in Bengal. That if there was some competition, it would be done on the academic level, not on the physical level. And that's actually much more high class. Of course, still, even on the academic level, if one is interested in defeating others, not particularly in establishing the truth, then that's in the mode of passion and ignorance. It's not in the mode of goodness. So the purpose of logic and reason and argumentation is to understand the absolute truth and to understand what one needs to do to achieve the favor of the Supreme Personality of God and ultimately to become purified and ultimately to go back to home, back to God. And that's the purpose of knowledge. Otherwise, the knowledge is called avidya or ignorance. We do need some avidya to function in this world. In fact, the Upanishad teaches us vidya, avidya. We have to cultivate both because we have to have knowledge on how to serve Krishna in this world. Like if you don't know anything about this world, then how are you going to serve Krishna? I mean, how are you going to propagate Krishna consciousness? How are you going to help people? How are you going to even feed your family? So you got to know something about this world, but not too much. If you know too much, then it's entangling. It's called avidya. So let's continue with this next chapter, chapter 13. All glories to Sri Gaurachandra, the shining light of the family of Brahmanas. All glories to the Lord who increases the happiness in the hearts of the devotees. All glories to the Lord of Govinda, the doorkeeper. O Lord, please glance mercifully on the living entities. All glories to the crest jewel of teachers and the king of Brahmanas. All glories to the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. In this way, the Lord of Vaikuntha enjoyed his scholastic pastimes by vanquishing the scholar's pride. Navadvip was full of millions of learned scholars, each of whom had mastered various scriptures. So, in other words, Navadvip was the seat of learning at that particular time. But the Acharyas, Chakravartis, Mishras, and Acharyas had no occupation other than teaching. So it was like a college town. Of course, in the college town, most of the teachers are teaching useless stuff, and of course, probably that was the case in Navadvip too. So these scholars were all independent, so victorious in Vedic scriptures that they disregarded persons as learned as Lord Brahma. The Lord constantly rebuked these scholars who had indirectly or indirectly who had to indirectly or indirectly hear those taunts. In other words, what he was doing when he was challenging it wasn't that he was just enjoying. He was enjoying. That was his scholastic pastimes. But he really was doing what's best for them. Because if one is filled with pride, then what is it? Janmaishwarya Shrutasha Shivir as Queen Kunti says. If one is prideful of their good birth, opulence, Aishvarya, Shrutasha, or learning, or bodily beauty, then that is an impediment in devotional service. Like, you're very proud how beautiful you are, how intelligent you are. And that means if you're thinking you're intelligent, you're thinking other people are stupid, stupid. Or if you're thinking you're attractive, you're thinking other people are less attractive or ugly. And if you're thinking you have good birth, then you're thinking other people are lower than you. And if you're thinking you're rich, then you're probably thinking other people are poor. Nevertheless, not one of them was able to counter the Lord's challenges because he's God. They were so frightened on seeing the Lord, they would humbly try to avoid him. Whoever the Lord spoke with would become his staunch follower. Because that was the system. That if you had an argument with someone, a philosophical argument, and you defeated them with Shastra, with logic, with reason, they would have to become your follower, your student. You would be their Guru Dev. Everyone on the banks of the Ganges knew very well that the Lord was most intelligent from his very childhood. Within their hearts, they knew that the Lord could not be defeated in an argument. Therefore, they naturally became frightened when they saw the Lord, and they were obliged to accept subordination to him. Nevertheless, the influence of the illusory energy is such that no one was able to recognize him. No one can possibly recognize the Lord unless and until he reveals himself. The Lord is eternally merciful to the living entities in every respect, yet due to the influence of his illusory energy, everyone remained ignorant of his identity. In this way, Gaurachandra bewildered everyone as he enjoyed his scholastic pastimes in Navadvip. In the meantime, a proud champion of learning arrived at Navadvip. So, as Keshava Kashmiri, that's the way Prabhupada tells the story. He was a staunch devotee of the goddess Saraswati. By chanting her mantra, he had won her favor. So Saraswati is the goddess of learning. And you'll see traditionally in the Gurukulas and the schools, they'll have like a big statue or deity of Saraswati. And in the beginning of the day, they may recite some prayers in honor of Saraswati and pray into her. Vishnu Bhakti Sarupini, Vishnu Vaksha Stita. Sorry, I'm reading the Sanskrit again. Or Bengali. That's Sanskrit here, I think. No, it's Bengali. Saraswati is the personification of devotional service to Lord Vishnu. Being non-different from Lakshmi, she eternally resides on the chest of Lord Vishnu. She is the mother of the universe. So, she's Shakti. She's not a Jiva soul. However, there is a Jiva soul named Saraswati who is the wife of Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma has a wife named Saraswati, and Lord Vishnu has a consort wife named Saraswati. Now, actually, something very interesting here that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says. Rama refers to Sri Shakti or Lakshmi reside in the chest of Vishnu. Saraswati is the personification of devotional service or Bhu Shakti. Sometimes described as Bhumi, short for Bhumi. She is the consort of the holy name of the Lord. Wow. That's the first time I heard this. So, wow, Saraswati is the consort of the holy name of Krishna, of the holy name. The phrase Jagannatha refers to Vishnu's Nila, Leela, and Durga Shaktis. Although the features of Rama, Saraswati, and Durga are different, they are all actually done different from Shri Narayan or Lakshmi, the internal potency of Shri Narayan. They are all personifications of Lord Vishnu's service, since they are all principal Ashraya Vigrahas. They are the mothers of the universe. That means Ashraya Vigrahas. Okay, let me just define what that means. Ashraya means that they're the form of shelter of devotional service, or the form of shelter. So generally, a devotee is called the Ashraya, and the Lord is called the Vishaya. So sometimes the roles are reversed when the Lord is worshiping the devotees, such as in the case when Krishna worships Srimati Radharani. But that's something very, very special. Whoops, internet connection unstable. Okay, seem to have gotten back. So anyway, so this Shri Bhu Nil Alila Nila, so Nila or Neil, same thing. They're all expansions of Lakshmi, and of course Lakshmi is an expansion of Srimati Radharani. And so Ashraya Vigraha is the mothers of devotion, mothers of the universe. Okay. Interesting, very interesting. Saraswati is the mother or the personification or the guardian of the holy name. Let me go back to that one. She's the consort of the holy name of the Lord. Wow. Yeah, the consort. Sorry. Due to the Brahma's great fortune, she appeared before him and blessed him to conquer the three worlds. So he was asking for a material benediction. What is the difficulty for her to bless one to become a champion in learning, when simply by a merciful glance one achieves devotional service to Lord Vishnu? In other words, we should not pray to Saraswati or something like that. We should pray to her to become a devotee of Lord Vishnu. Give us the intelligence. And because she's the consort of the holy name, we should pray to her to help us connect with Krishna's holy name. Wow, consort of the holy name. After directly receiving the benediction of Goddess Saraswati, the Brahmana traveled from province to province, defeating the local scholars wherever he went. All the scriptures resided on the tip of his tongue. There was no one in the world who could answer his challenge. Many scholars were not even able to understand his questions, so he easily conquered the scholars wherever he went. He then heard about the glories of Navadvip, where an endless learned scholars resided. Thus, after conquering all other provinces, the champion scholar came to Navadvip, along with his opulent entourage, which included horses and elephants. Now, why did the scholar have horses and elephants? Because each time he won a debate, he got some donations there. And so he became very rich. He was using his mouth to make money. As a result, a loud commotion arose in every house and every assembly of learned scholars at Nadia. People everywhere were heard saying, "A champion scholar has come to Navadvip with a certificate of victory from scholars all over the country." That's called a Jayapatra. When all the learned scholars at Navadvip heard that he was favored by Saraswati, they began to worry. Of all places of learning throughout Jambudvipa, Navadvip surpasses them all. If this Digvijayi is victorious in such a place as this, then scholars all over the world will condemn us. Yet who has the ability to debate with one who has received the blessings of Saraswati? Since Saraswati resides on his tongue, how can a human being debate him? Thousands of great Bhattacharyas left their duties out of anxiety. They were in hiding. All over Navadvip, people were heard saying, "Now we'll understand the power of our knowledge." So the students went and informed their teacher, Gauranga, of all these incidents. A Digvijaya, who has been blessed by Saraswati and who has conquered scholars throughout the world, has come with a certificate of victory. He has arrived in Navadvip surrounded by elephants, horses, palanquins, and many followers. He has come to Navadvip seeking an opponent. Otherwise, he demands a certificate of victory from the scholars of Navadvip. Hearing the words of his students, the jewel-like Gauranga smiled and began to describe the nature of the Supreme Lord. Listen, dear brothers, the Supreme Lord never tolerates false pride. This is really important for us. Because if we're proud of anything, our ability, then Krishna will take away that ability. So we should always think, oh, by Krishna's grace, this is happening. I'm not proud. Oh my God, I have to be really careful. Whenever the Lord sees someone proud of some personal quality, he certainly removes the cause of that quality of pride. So, wow. If I think I'm a nice chanter, a nice class giver, a nice cultivator of devotees, then no. Krishna just like smashes. The nature of both the tree laden with fruit and the man decorated with good qualities is they bow down with humility. Interesting. You must have heard of the great Digvijayis of the past, like Hayaya, Nahusha, Bena, Mana, Naraka, and Ravana. Because we all know these people. They're in the Bhagavatam. Ravana was definitely a Digvijaya. Try to think whose pride was not smashed. The Supreme Lord never tolerates anyone's false ego. Therefore, you will see this Digvijayi's scholastic pride vanquished here in Navadvip. After saying this, Nimai smiled. Then in the evening, he took his students to the bank of the Ganges. After sprinkling some Ganges water on his head and offering obeisances, Lord Gauranga sat down on the bank with his students. As the students sat around the Lord in various groups, it created an unprecedented scene. The Lord jubilantly engaged in discussing Varnashram Dharma and scriptural topics on the bank of the Ganges. Though he did not say anything, the Lord thought, how shall I defeat this Digvijayi? This Brahmin has become most proud because he thinks there is no one in the world to oppose him. If I defeat him in an assembly, it would be equal to death for him. Everyone would belittle him, they would plunder his belongings, and he would die in lamentation. So Lord Chaitanya was also concerned with his welfare. Therefore, I will defeat him in a private place so that his pride will be destroyed, but he won't be hurt. While the Lord was thinking in this way, night fell, and the Digvijayi arrived at that spot. It was a clear full moon night, and the Ganges looked most enchanting as the Lord sat with the students. His attractive form was unmatched throughout innumerable universes. Wow. A smile decorated the Lord's moon-like face, and his beautiful eyes showered merciful glances. His teeth defeated the luster of a string of pearls, and his reddish lips resembled the color of the rising sun. He was full of compassion, and all the limbs of his body were delicate. His head was adorned with beautiful curly black hair. His dress was divine. His neck resembled that of a lion, and his shoulders were like those of an elephant. His body was very large, and his attractive chest was adorned by Lord Ananta in the form of a Brahmin thread. An enchanting mark of tilak decorated his forehead, and his beautiful arms reached to his knees. The Lord wore his cloth like a sannyasi, and he sat with his right foot on his left thigh. That's actually a very auspicious way to sit. Some sort of jnana mudra. As the Lord explained in the scriptures, he explained these scriptures, he established correct statements as incorrect and incorrect statements as correct. All of his students sitting around him in groups created an enchanting scene. Seeing that wonderful scene, Digvijayi was astonished and thought, is this Nimai Pandit? Digvijayi remained incognito as he gazed steadily on the Lord's beautiful form. He then asked the student, what is his name? And the student replied, he is the famous Nimai Pandit. The best of the Brahmanas then offered his obeisances to the Ganges and entered the Lord's assembly. Seeing him, the Lord slightly smiled as he offered him a seat with great respect. Although the Digvijayi was very brave by nature and a champion of learning besides, he was nevertheless frightened on seeing the Lord. The power of the Supreme Lord's natural characteristic is such that the very sight of him produces fear. After exchanging a few words of introduction, the Lord began to sportingly inquire from him. The Lord said, "There's no limit to your poetic ability. There's nothing that you are unable to describe. Please recite some of the glories of the Ganges, for by hearing such glories, everyone's sins are destroyed." Hearing the Lord's request, the Digvijayi immediately began to describe the glories of the Ganges. Who could fathom the countless verses of the Brahmana so quickly recited? The Digvijayi's recitation was like the deep rumbling of clouds. Since Saraswati personally resided on the tongue of Digvijayi, whatever he spoke was authorized. No human being had the ability to refute his speech, for no scholar could even understand him. The Lord's thousands of students all became speechless on hearing those descriptions. Rama, Rama, how wonderful, they marveled. Can an ordinary human being speak like this? The most wonderful words and literary ornaments in the world were all used in the Digvijayi's recitation. Even those who were fully conversant in the scriptures had great difficulty understanding his words. The Digvijayi continually recited in this amazing way for 3 hours without coming to an end. When Digvijayi finally finished his recitation, Sri Gaurasundar smiled and spoke. The purport of your words are so exalted, it should be is so exalted, that unless you explain them, should the purports, or is anyway wrong English, are so exalted that unless you explain them, should be the purports of your words are so exalted that unless you explain them, no one can understand. Therefore, please explain a portion of your recitation, for whatever meaning is explained by you must be accepted. Hearing the Lord's enchanting words, the best of the Brahmanas began to explain. But as soon as he began to explain a verse, the Lord immediately pointed out the faults in the beginning, middle, and end of the verse. This is the verse. Mahatvam Gandhya Satamidam Avati Nitaram Yaresha Shri Vishnu Chanana Kamalotpati Subhaga Dvitiya Sri Lakshmi Riva Sura Naraya Archa Charla Bhavani Vartur Yashirasi Abhibavat Yadbhuta Guna. The greatness of Mother Ganges always brilliantly exists. She is the most fortunate because she emanated from the lotus feet of Sri Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She's the second goddess of fortune, and therefore she is always worshipped by both demigods and humanity. Endowed with all wonderful qualities, she flourishes on the head of Lord Shiva. And of course, that citation is from the Chaitanya Bhagavata, which actually has the actual verse. The Lord said, according to the scriptures, all the words and literary ornaments that you have used are far from correct. In other words, they're wrong. But please tell us, what was your intended meaning of these ornaments? Digvijayi, the great son of Saraswati, was unable to properly explain, for his intelligence had left him. Whatever little attempt he made to defend himself was refuted by Lord Gaurasundara. It appeared that Digvijayi's intelligence had taken leave of him, for he did not even know what he was saying. The Lord said, leave this verse and recite another. But the Digvijayi was unable to recite like before. It is not unusual that Digvijayi was bewildered in front of the Lord, because even the Vedas are bewildered in the presence of the Lord. Lord Brahma, Lord Ananta, and Lord Shiva create, maintain, and annihilate innumerable universes. When even they are bewildered before the Lord, then what is surprising that this Brahmana was bewildered? Of course, Bhagavatam says, Muyandi Surya. That's interesting. Okay. Oh, pretty long purport. Okay. All right. Very long. Okay. Unlimited universes are bewildered by Maya, the shadow Lakshmi of Lakshmi Saraswati, and other internal potencies of the Lord. Yet she is also bewildered in the presence of the Lord, and therefore she always stands behind him. When the compiler of the Vedas and even Anantashesha are bewildered in the presence of the Lord, then what is surprising if the Digvijayi is bewildered? It is impossible for ordinary living entities to understand the activities of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, his activities are transcendently glorious. In fact, the activities performed by the Supreme Lord are all meant for the deliverance of the conditioned souls. As the Digvijayi faced defeat, the Lord's students were on the verge of laughing, and Lord Chaitanya didn't want them to laugh. The Lord, however, forbade them from laughing and sweetly spoke to the Brahmana. You please go home for today, and tomorrow we will discuss some more. You must be tired after your long recitation, and it's getting late. Please go take rest. The Lord's behavior was so gentle that whoever was defeated by him felt no distress. After defeating each of the teachers in Navadvip, the Lord satisfied them with his sweet behavior. The Lord continued, let us go home today, then after looking at your books, come tomorrow and answer my questions. Even after defeating someone, the Lord did not insult them, and thus everyone was pleased with him. Such were the pastimes of the Lord. That is why all the learned scholars of Navadvip were so affectionate to the Lord. As the Lord returned home with the students, the Digvijayi felt great shame. In distress, the Brahmana thought, I've been personally blessed by Saraswati. Till now, I've not met a single person, whether a scholar of Nyaya, that's logic. Sankhya means analyzing the different material elements. Patanjali, that means the yoga system. Mimamsa, like karma mimamsa. Vaisheshika means atomism, with a study of the Vedic literatures. Could he meet with me? And what to speak of defeating me? This Brahmana merely teaches children's grammar and defeated me. This is certainly an act of providence. It appears that Saraswati's benediction is proven false, which awakens doubts in my mind. Otherwise, have I committed some offense at her feet? Is that why my intelligence was diminished? I must find out the cause of my defeat. Thinking in this way, the Brahmana began chanting his mantra, the Saraswati's mantra. After chanting for some time, the distressed Brahmana fell asleep, and in a short time Saraswati appeared before him in a dream. Goddess Saraswati glanced mercifully on the fortunate Brahman and confidentially spoke as follows. O best of the Brahmanas, listen as I disclose to you the secrets of the Vedas. If you disclose these topics to anyone, you will meet a quick death. Know for certain that he by whom you were defeated is the Lord of innumerable universes. Wow. Wow, this is interesting, the purport. Okay. Saraswati Devi appeared in a dream before Digvijaya Pandit, who had chanted her mantras and said, if you disclose to anyone the most confidential topics that I'm telling you regarding the covered incarnation of the Lord, then your death is certain. It is said that since Keshava Bhatta, the spiritual master of Gangalya Bhatta, revealed the information about Sriman Mahaprabhu that was given to him in a dream by Saraswati, he met with a premature death. Wow. Therefore, Gangalya Bhatta again initiated a Brahmana from Kashmir and gave him the name Keshava. From this popular hearsay, it is clearly understood that the Digvijaya Pandit referred to here is not Keshava Kashmiri. Rather, he is a Pandit named Keshava Bhatta. Wow, that's really interesting. So that's how we know about it, because he revealed it and he died. But that was also the Lord's pastimes. I'm the eternal maidservant at his lotus feet. I'm embarrassed to appear before him. The illusory energy of the Lord cannot take precedence, being ashamed of her position, but those who are bewildered by her always talk nonsense, being absorbed in the thoughts of I and mine. That's from the Bhagavatam. O Brahmana, although I speak through your tongue in front of him, I have no power. What to speak of me, even Lord Anantasesh, who explains the Vedas with thousands of mouths and was worshipped by Brahma and Shiva, he is also bewildered in his presence. He is the supreme Brahman, the eternal, pure, complete, and inexhaustible Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart. Wow. Imagine that realization. Fruit of activities, mental speculation, material knowledge, pious and impious activities, direct and indirect perception, and more than I am able to say. All these are created and destroyed by that Lord you just met in the form of a Brahmana. Know for certain that everyone, including Lord Brahma, enjoys happiness and distress according to his will alone. Listen, dear Brahmana, all incarnations such as Macha and Kurma are non-different from him. In the form of Lord Varaha, he rescued the earth, and in the form of Nrsimha, he protected Prahlad. In the form of Vamana, he is the life and soul of Bali. The Ganges appears from his lotus feet. Wow. Of course, that's Lord Chaitanya. The Lord appeared at Ayodhya and then killed Ravan as one of his innumerable pastimes. He is known as the son of both Vasudeva and Nanda, and now he has appeared as the son of a Brahmana to enjoy scholastic pastimes. Do the Vedas know this incarnation of the Lord? Who has the power to know unless the Lord reveals himself? The title of Digvijayi is not the real fruit of your chanting mantras to worship me. The real fruit of your chanting is that you have now directly seen the Lord of the innumerable universes. Therefore, O Brahmana, go immediately and surrender yourself at his lotus feet. Don't ignore my words by considering this only a dream. I am controlled by your chanting and have therefore informed you of that which is unknown in the Vedas. Speaking these words, Saraswati disappeared, and the most fortunate Brahmana woke up. Immediately after getting up, the Brahmana went in the early morning to the Lord's residence. The Brahmana came and offered his obeisances to the Lord, and picked up the Brahmana and embraced him. The Lord said, "O Brahmana, why have you come so early? What is the reason for this behavior?" The Brahmana replied, "It is all due to your merciful glance." The Lord said, "You are the champion of learning. Why are you treating me like this?" The Digvijaya replied, "Please listen. O King of the Brahmanas, just by worshipping you, all one's activities become successful. You are the Supreme Lord Narayan, but you have appeared in Kali Yuga in the form of a Brahmin who has the power to recognize you. Doubts arose in my mind when you asked me questions that I was unable to answer. O Lord, all the Vedas confirm that you are devoid of pride. Now I have seen this with my own eyes. There is no doubt about it. Although you have defeated me 3 times, you have maintained my prestige. Is this possible for anyone other than the Supreme Lord? Therefore, you are certainly Lord Narayan. I met with innumerable scholars wherever I have gone: Gauda, Trihuta, Delhi, Kashi, Gujarat, Vijayanagara, Kanchipura, Anga, Bengal, Andhra, Orissa. What to speak of refuting my statements? None of those scholars had even the power to understand them. Though I am such a scholar, I was still unable to establish my conclusions before you. Where did all my intelligence go? This is not at all astonishing achievement for you, for you are the Lord of Saraswati. She personally told me this. Although I came to Navadvip at the most auspicious time, although I was drowning in the dark well of material life, I somehow saw you. I was bewildered by nescience and material desires, and I cheated myself as I wandered throughout the world, forgetful of my constitutional position. I have met you by some great fortune. Now please deliver me by your merciful glance. It is your nature to engage in the welfare of others. Indeed, there is no shelter or source of compassion other than you. O Lord, please instruct me in such a way that I may have no material desires in my heart. Hearing the Brahmana's submissive words, Gaurasundar smiled and replied, "Listen, O best of the Brahmanas, you are the most fortunate, for Saraswati resides in your tongue. Conquering the world is not the proper use for knowledge. The proper use of knowledge is to worship the Supreme Lord. Try to understand. When one gives up his body, he cannot take wealth and reputation with him." That's very important. That is why devotees renounce material endeavors and serve the Supreme Lord with firm determination. Therefore, O Brahmana, give up all materialistic association and immediately begin to worship the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Haribo. Up to the time of death, serve Krishna with confidence. Well, know without doubt that the goal of knowledge is to fix one's mind on Krishna's lotus feet. The best advice I can give you is that devotional service to the Supreme Lord Vishnu is the only substantial truth throughout all the worlds. Okay, and we'll stop here and we'll allow you different souls to ask some questions. If you want to ask some questions, we got about 8 more minutes left. So, very interesting narration. Okay, if anyone has a question, you can raise your hand, you can unmute yourself, or you can type in the chat window, whatever you prefer. Does anyone have any questions about this particular pastime? Such an amazing pastime, and actually teaches us not to be proud or angry or try to assert our superiority over others. We oftentimes try to do that, assert our superiority or our family's superiority in different ways, whether it's strength, intelligence, beauty, as I mentioned before. But don't do it, or Krishna may take it away from you. Or renunciation. If you're showing, I'm so renounced. It's like sannyasi, sometimes they try to show they're so renounced that they wear. I mean, even there was a Grasta, or someone Grasta without a wife one time, one of my disciples, he would wear these wooden shoes, which, just, what are you trying to show? They're not comfortable. Preach Krishna consciousness and dress comfortably, because you won't become Krishna conscious by executing austerities or being proud or your particular or whatever. We were talking about this the other day. In the beginning days of the movement, the sannyasis were proud of the watches because that's all we had. Then after that, it was proud of the computer and proud of the mobile phones. And what do you have to be proud of? Because everything's taken away. So anyone have any questions? Raise your hand, or we can end a little early. Questions, comments? Okay. Nobody has any questions. So I guess we will count down, going once, going twice. Oops. Oops. Oh, what
Hare
happened
Krishna
here?
Maharaj, please accept my obeisances.
Yeah,
All
Haribo.
glories to Prabhupada.
Yeah,
Maharaj, I
there's
had a quick
probably.
question. So,
Yeah.
um, the way Mahaprabhu was so kind and respectful while teaching the Pandit such an important lesson, I think a lot of
Right.
us, me for sure, we struggle with, wanting to feel superior. And even if externally we say, or I say, no, I have to be humble, there is that desire inside the heart. So how can we improve, or how can I improve myself and, get better?
Just remember, whatever ability you have, whatever success you have, whatever anything you have in this world is just on loan from God. Actually, there was a famous radio announcer many years ago who would say, a talent on loan from God. And he actually understood that. I mean, he wasn't a devotee. But we should actually understand this, that we've been lent something. So what do we have to be proud of? And then landing means we lose it at a particular, it's taken away by the action of the time factor. So if you always remember that, and also is your relative, basically. Everybody in this mature world is struggling. Everybody else in this mature world should be a object of your compassion, object of your love. And if they're not, you should find fault in yourself. Why am I thinking negatively about someone? Generally we think negatively about someone who's a so-called competitor. There's biggest sannyasi or whatever. And we should think, this, but for the grace, if we see someone in a more difficult situation, we think, but for the grace of God, there go I. So that helps us cultivate humility and also just identify ourselves as just Krishna's servant. Gopi Bharta, Parakamala, Dasa, Dasa, Dasanu, Dasa. I mean, there's different things we can do. Okay, so just one or two more questions real quickly. Radhika. Oh,
Hare Krishna
you had a
Gurudev.
question?
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah, go
okay.
ahead.
Thank you. I was wondering, because I was noticing that within myself, sometimes pride shows up in different ways that are kind of like covert. Like I'll find myself pitying people, and then I'll realize that I'm actually being prideful. So I was wondering, like, what are some other ways that pride shows up that we aren't noticing, but are there?
Probably a million and one ways, but that's
Yeah.
one way. You look down upon people, you pity them, thinking you're superior, uh, and getting angry with people. That's one way you get angry with people. Um, I mean, yeah, there's probably a lot of ways. I haven't thought of all the different ways. It's just the whole point is to think yourself more important, more intelligent, dearer to Krishna. But Krishna says, Samoham Sarvabhuteshu Namadvesho Stinapya. He says, I'm equal to everyone. I have no special friends. I have no special enemies. So everyone is reciprocating with Krishna. So Krishna loves everyone equally. And if we don't treat everybody in that same respect, then anyway, we get an interesting lesson. So, just one other question. How can we face death all our life? We practice Krishna at KC, but it's hard to lose our loved ones. That's really difficult. Yeah, so how can we face, the death of other people? It's probably harder to face that than to face our own death, in one sense. Uh, we should try, I mean, you can see things philosophically, but there's always an emotional component. Like you say, it's easy to say, but hard to take it. So we should, the way that I usually say to take it is we pray for the soul. We pray for that particular person. And that way we can do something about it. Because one thing is, if we're in great pain because someone's passed away, the pain can actually be mitigated or transformed by praying for the person, doing some service for the person, or sponsoring the feeding of Vaishnavas for the person. So if you do something practical, then you're connecting with the person and helping the person. Okay, so we have to end now. So thank